live with Tao. Can ego be transformed? When the process of spiritual transformation begins, with that, can ego be transformed? The process of spiritual transformation does not mean the transformation of ego. The process of transformation begins only when ego disappears. Disappearance of ego is not transformation of ego, instead, it is dissolution of ego. You are not going to transform ego, because howsoever transformed the ego is, it will always remain ego. It may become superior, it may become more refined, more cultured, but ego will remain ego. And the more cultured it becomes, the more poisonous it, the more subtle, the more you will be under the grip of ego, because now you will not be aware of its subtlety. You are not even aware of gross ego. When a bout or dialogue begins between a spouse or two people, the kind of things are, words are used, and things happen at that moment. Nobody accepts the responsibility. This is the gross form. And when it becomes subtle, you are started a spiritual process. You become the member of a church or any other religious organization. Ego becomes subtle. There is no way of transforming ego through inner transformation. There are ways certainly to refine ego, but those are not the ways of spirituality. Spirituality is another dimension. However, ego can be refined through morality. Morality exists as one of those methods. And there is a vast difference between morality and religion. Morality works on refining the ego. Morality exists on methods of refining ego. Morality focuses on responsibility. So we say to the person, don't do this. If you do this, your respect is at stake. As an employee, as an ambassador, or a person in a high status, you are not supposed to do these things. What others will think of. Do not do this. You will not be honored. And that way, do this and everybody will honor you. As a prime minister or president of a country, you are not supposed to go to ordinary street side vendor or a food cart standing amidst the common men, common people, and sharing a breakfast or tea or anything, because that will bring down your honor. So you have to maintain your prestige. You have to go to the place with the status and everything. So the whole morality depends on your ego, a subtle ego. Recently, I have seen a video where the Indian Prime Minister was going somewhere and he heard that in particular area this man makes a very good tea and he is very famous for it. He went and sat down with that ordinary person making the cup of tea. He asked him about his welfare, about his business and everything. So it is not expected from an American president or a British Prime Minister to do those sort of things. This is the morality focuses on responsibility and respectability. As a Prime Minister, as a President, you have a commitment to maintain the status that you are holding because of that position. Religion is different. If you are a religious person, it does not focus on refining the ego. It simply focuses on the dissolution of ego. Religion is not transformation of ego, it is transcendence beyond the ego. You simply leave the ego or ego leaves you. And it is not that you leave it. It is because it is wrong, it is false, it is the cloud. It is like that. There is a cloud, and because of that, you can, or a veil. Suppose a particular sculpture or a statue, a sculpture is to be unveiled. For unveiling, the sculpture is covered in a particular way. So there is a curtain in front of that. Because of that curtain, that sculpture is not visible. So all you have done, the reality is hidden by a curtain or a cloud of ignorance. So around our being, around our reality, there is a cloud of ignorance. The moment the cloud of ignorance vanishes, it's not that you are doing anything. A process has begun, and because of that process, automatically the cloud, the light is coming as there is dark clouds, and because of that, the sun is the denseness of the cloud is so intense that the sunlight cannot penetrate. This is the nature of an individual. The cloud of ignorance is so dense, the light cannot penetrate through that dense clouds. But if the process continues, sooner or later, the rays of light will start penetrating through the dark cloud, and then slowly and slowly the dark or dense clouds of ignorance will vanish. Then that which was hidden will unravel itself. So for unveiling, for the sculpture is covered with the curtain or something device, it is remove the curtain, whichever way it is, by pressing the remote, and the things starts appearing. The moment you press the remote, whatsoever is on the screen or your turn becomes visible. So what happens? Religion is not transformation, or spirituality is not transformation of ego, Instead, it is transcendence, removing the veil that ignorance is or ego is. You do not leave ego, instead, it leaves you because it was wrong. Remember this distinction. Morality always says, leave that which is wrong and do that which is right. Religions say, leave that which is false, not wrong. There is a difference between wrong and false. Religion focuses on leaving the false. So they are truth and false. The moment false creates a veil around the truth. And the moment that curtain is removed, truth starts manifesting. Morality says wrong and right. Morality is based on the premise of right and wrong. Religion is based on falsehood and truth. That's the basic difference. Morality says they leave the wrong, start doing the right. Religiosity says leave that which is unreal, only then you can enter the real. But spirituality, with spirituality, truth is the value, not right. Because right may itself be false, and in a false world, we need false right to oppose the wrongs. This you need to understand. You have to see that truth has to be established. I have heard the children were playing inside the house, and they were so much engrossed in their play that they became unaware of anything. Suddenly, the house got fire. Children were so much lost in their play that the father was calling from outside. They were not listening to them. He was saying that there is fire, come out, children, otherwise you will be saved. But they were not listening. So father did, it was a season of Christmas. So father called the children loudly, children, come out, I brought toys for you. I brought toys for you. This was false. But it was necessary to establish truth. Truth was the children were to be saved from that catastrophe of the fire that could have, in that fire, not only the house, but everyone who was inside the building would have vanished. So hearing the father call out, and the word toys attracted them so much that all of a sudden they came out of the building. And when they came out, the purpose of using that false method to establish righteousness or truth was established. So this has to be done in Mahabharata. In the war of Mahabharata, Krishna uses the same device. In order to establish righteousness, the method is not important. What is important? The righteousness has to be established. The truth has to be established. The morality decides on right and wrong. Don't do wrong. Focus on the right. What will others think about it? If you do this, so don't do this, you will be honored. So morality depends on refining the ego. Leave that which is unreal and enter the real. Spirituality is not transformation of ego, instead it is transcendence. It is going beyond the ego, beyond the curtain. The sculpture is hidden behind the curtain. You either remove the curtain or you go behind the curtain. And this going beyond the ego, the realm of ego, is awakening. It is a deep alertness to see whether ego exists or not. So you know there is a curtain, a stage performance is going on, curtain is drawn. So the person whose responsibility is to pull the curtain and draw the curtain, he goes behind the scene, behind the curtain, to see if everything is ready. When it is ready, all the artists are ready for the stage, to come on the stage for performance. Then he comes back. Nobody is seeing him. He is behind the curtain, and sometimes he just comes out and tells the audience to wait for a moment. We are opening the curtain soon. Then he goes behind and to see if everything is ready. The moment it is, he comes and opens the curtain. You go beyond ego, and this going beyond the ego is awakening. It is a deep alertness to see whether ego exists or not. If it exists, if ego exists, is still with awakening, with alertness. If it is a part, a real part of your being, you cannot go beyond it. If it is false, only then transcendence is possible. Repeating this, if it exists, you are seeing whether ego exists or not. If it still exists, if it is still a part, a real part of your being, then you cannot go beyond it. If it is false, only then you can go beyond this, and then transcendence is possible. So ego, where it is arising from, you can awaken out of dream. You cannot awaken out of reality, because reality is always there. You cannot awaken out of reality, or can you? You can transcend a dream, but you cannot transcend the reality, because reality is always there. Only thing is, you have to come out of that dream state. And the moment you come out of that dream state, you don't need to transcend do anything else. You cannot transcend reality. The ego is false entity. And what do you mean when it is said ego is a false entity? It means that it exists only because you have not encountered it. If you encounter it, you know that you are encountering it. It will not exist. Ego exists is the fragrance of your ignorance. If ignorance is not there, ego cannot exist. So what is the awakening means? Dissolution of ignorance. Ignorance is there because you are not aware of it. It is there. You can become aware, and the moment you are aware, the ignorance is vanished, ego will disappear. Ego is the fragrance of ignorance, and ignorance is absence of that which is. If you become aware and some entity disappears just by becoming your aware, it means ego is false. And the real will be revealed in awareness, and in awareness, the false will disappear. So it is not really right to say that leave your ego. If you say leave your ego, as it is normally said, that means because whenever it is said to leave the ego, it gives you the sense that ego is something tangible and you have to leave it. You can even start struggling to throw ego, what you are trying to do, through something which does not exist. If I ask you, it is like a cloud. It is like the atmosphere, the air in the room. You are trying to throw this air, that you cannot do it. It is wrong to say that leave the ego, because whenever it is said to leave your ego, it gives you the sense that there is something, ego is something tangible, and you have to leave it. And then you can start struggling, as you are trying to struggle to get the air out of this room. The whole effort is absent. It is like trying to throw the darkness from the room. It is there. The whole room is full of darkness, and you consider the ego is that darkness that surrounds it. What it is needed, you bring the light into it. A ray of light that comes into it, it penetrates through the dark clouds of that is there inside in the room. You turn on the switch, immediately the darkness vanishes. The whole effort to remove the darkness is absurd. You cannot throw it, because only that which is a reality, you can take out the furniture out of it, because furniture is tangible. The darkness is the absence of light. It is not gross. Only that which is gross you can remove it, and ego is not gross. You cannot throw it because it is only a reality. It is not a reality, and only reality can be thrown. You cannot fight with it. Can you fight with the darkness that is there inside the room? No, you cannot. How can you fight with a shadow? Because shadow is the absence of light. And if you fight, remember, you will be defeated. Not because the shadow is very powerful, but because the shadow is shadow and it is not. It is the absence of light. So when I say ego, ego is absence of awareness. Just as shadow, your shadow is absence of the light. When this light is coming in, something is blocking the penetration of light. So you are standing there and the light cannot pass through you. Because of that, a shadow is formed at a certain distance, and you begin to fight with that to remove the shadow. You just move out a little bit on the side, and the sun will start shining. This is what happened when Alexander was coming to India. He went on the bank of the river and he met a naked Saint Diogenes. He said, I can get you anything if you want. I can get anything. I am the emperor. He said, if you can give me anything, just move aside because you are blocking the sunlight coming onto me. So because Alexander was standing in front of Diogenes, so he was blocking the flow of light from falling onto the warmth falling on Diogenes. So ego is that, like a darkness which is absence of light, or like a shadow which is absence of light. So you cannot fight with it. Remember, if you fight with the shadow, you will be defeated, because the more you will move trying to do, you are using your fist to give a blow to the ego, it will happen the same thing. Like you are standing in front of the mirror and trying to fight. So whatsoever you are doing, your shadow in the mirror does the same thing. So it mirrors. It is not because you are being defeated by shadow because it is powerful. Instead, the shadow is a false entity. It is not a reality. You cannot defeat it. You will be defeated by your own stupidity. And everybody is defeated by ego because of their own stupidity. And sooner or after, you realize that it is, I was stupid enough to act in that manner, in that situation. So it is not the ego that defeats you, but your stupidity, your adherence to ego defeats you. Fight with the shadow, you can never win. That is certain. You will be defeated. That too is certain, because you will dissipate your own energy in the fight. Not that shadow is very powerful. Instead, the shadow does not exist. It is when the light is blocked because of an object, then shadow is formed. You are fighting with your own self, with your own false self which does not exist. Shadow is your false self. If you can understand the shadow is your false self, then you will realize that ego is your false self. There is a reality that you are. And when the light does not penetrate, light of awareness does not penetrate through that, a false entity is formed, and that is ego. Ego is the shadow of your being. Just as shadow is the absence of light, ego is the absence of awareness, is the shadow that is coming when the awareness is blocked from its manifestation. The moment awareness is blocked from manifestation, a shadow is formed, that is ego. What you have to do, you cannot remove ego. You cannot fight with it because it does not exist. All you need to do, bring awareness into it. So spiritual transformation means bringing more awareness into you. The more aware you are, the more you will find that the ego begins to dissolve. That ego that used to exist as a shadow arising out of obstruction between your being and awareness. Awareness was not there. Awareness was not penetrating through your being. Then ego was formed. That's a false entity. Just as shadow was formed, when light could not penetrate through your physical appearance. The moment you move away from there, the light penetrates. You were not allowing the awareness to flow into you. The moment you arrive, they allow the awareness to penetrate through you. The falseness, the false entity that was reflecting you is dissolved. The reality is said to be manifesting. And if you are fighting with your own self, you are wasting your energy, then you will be exhausted and you may fall down. And you will think that shadow has won you and you are defeated. The shadow has not been there at all. If you are fighting with ego, you will be defeated. Rather, enter and try to find out where it is. It is said that Emperor of China, Emperor Wu of Wu dynasty, asked Bodhidharma, "My mind is very restless. I am in constant inner turmoil. Give me some peace or give me some secret method so that I can enter into my inner silence," as everybody normally asks. Bodhidharma said, "You come early in the morning. Early in the morning, 4 o'clock, when there is no one there. When I am alone, you come in my hut. And remember, when you are coming, you bring your restless mind with you. Don't leave it at home." The king was very much disturbed with this, thinking that this man, Bodhidharma, is really mad. He is asking me. He himself was not aware what is restlessness of the mind that he was calling as restless mind. He was thinking that he is mad. He says, "Bring your disturbed mind with you. Don't leave it at home. Otherwise, who am I going to silence?" Someone said, "I have problem." So I say to them, "Bring your problem, I will put it to rest." But problem is created by you as a false entity. Restlessness is created by you as a false entity. How can I correct it? The only awareness is that it does not exist. So he says, the king murmured, he says, "Bring your disturbed mind with you, don't leave it at home. Otherwise, who am I going to silence? I will make it still, but bring it, remember well, and that too you come only when I am alone." And the emperor left, but more disturbed than ever. He had been thinking, if this man is a sage or a wise man, and he would give him some key. That is what the king was thinking. When a seeker comes to a master, he thinks the same way, that I will get some secret key to remove my problems with my spouse, with my family, with this or that. He thought that he will give him a key, a secret method. If the master Bodhidharma was a priest, he would have given him a mantra, a psalm, or a verse from Holy Quran. Do this and your mind will be silenced. But whatsoever he said seems to be foolish. In your eyes it is foolish, because you are foolish. How can one leave one's mind at home? He could not sleep. The eyes of Bodhidharma and the way he looked at him, he was hypnotized, as if a magnet was pulling him. He could not sleep the whole night, and at 4 o'clock he got ready. He did not really want to go because this man seems to be mad. And going so early in the darkness when there is no one, this man could do anything and he will not be there. So Bodhidharma was in a great problem, quandary. He asked me to come 4 o'clock and bring your disturbed mind because you want me to put it to rest, to put it to peace. But his eyes was magnetic. There was a magnetic pull that I could not keep away from. So he was in a quandary. But he was still attracted to that. In spite of himself, he went. In spite of all this, he went. What happened when he went? Imagine, think, introspect. And if you cannot, then wait until I come back tomorrow again. Enough for now.